president orders that because there's so much gun violence going on in the country, and he comes in and he says, I have the right to take away the guns from everyone. I have the right to take away the guns from everyone. I have the right to take away the guns from everyone. Then people, and he sends out the military to seize everyone's guns. We and the courts have to sit back and wait until every named plaintiff gets, or every plaintiff whose gun is taken comes into court. So as far as I see it, this order violates 4 Supreme Court precedents.
So for many years, I felt that if an individual is an artist, if he or she couldn't paint or draw something that appeared to be real in terms of people, that is, I had this guilt that you shouldn't draw people if you don't advance to a level where you can draw a person, paint a person that looks real. Because I had so many real experiences with real people, real situations, that at some point left me broken, astonished, in fear. You know, my early life was compiled of a lot of fear. Being sexually abused, then being bullied, bicycle stolen, people finding any reason to laugh at me. You know, they said I had a big head. They said I had big lips. They said I was shy. And the boys would say, you scared of girls. But they didn't know that I had been sexually abused at the age of 10 by 2 different males. And so my experience with humanity it's been real at an early age. And so I felt that if you paint people, if you draw people, they gotta look real. And it wasn't until 2018, maybe mid 2018, that I had this conviction to finally pick up the paintbrush and start painting. Because I had been drawing for years. Crayons, color pencils here and there, and then number 2 pencils, but mostly number 2 pencils and crayons. And this conviction was weighing on me. But I wrestled with, if you can't paint a Mona Lisa, don't pick up the paintbrush. So I went on YouTube and I began to just search artists, Black artists, American artists, etc. And I was introduced to a vast amount of art from people from different walks of life, different ethnic backgrounds, different races. And it was not just canvas artwork, but it also involved people building things. And I'm like, damn, this is the world in itself. I saw beauty in some of it. I saw human affairs that involve good, bad, and ugly. I saw a lot of individualism. One of my first pieces, if I have to be honest about applying paint to canvas, it involves acrylic from Michaels, canvas from Michaels, and it was a tutorial. And that tutorial involved somewhat of a landscape, inner city landscape. And the individual with an umbrella. So I got the black and the white with this dose of red. That was the first video that I was inspired by. And I did it. And I was like, man, it comes close to what the tutorial, you know, guided me to bring it to fruition. I started searching for YouTube documentaries. And I stumbled upon some documentaries that involved Basquiat. But there was another documentary called Colored Frames that was very inspirational. And I began to look at how these artists shared their testimony in terms of their experience as an artist. But then I also took in consideration that they all had a different style. And it was then that I felt confident that, yeah, this is a graduation for me. I'm going to move from color pencils, ink pens, crayons, chalk, pastel, and I'm going to pick up the paintbrush. And so upon watching documentary films, I learned that a lot of artists have what they call series. And that series consists of a body of art that could all relate to one another. And so I decided to start what I would call what I called the Cotton series. And the first piece that I did, a piece called How Hard is Cotton. And what it spoke to was that although cotton is depicted as being soft, the life that slaves endured and suffered, it was hard. Yet they brought forth plentiful, picked cotton, hard as cotton. And a guy from down in, I think, in New Orleans area purchased that piece, I think, for his grandmother. And but then I had a piece called Cotton Birth that dealt with a child being born to a slave mother in a bed of cotton. There was another piece called Sold, which addressed the fact that you have this European walking, and in his hand is a piece of paper that says sold, and on his wagon are slaves who've been sold. Then there was another piece that involves an individual who decided to flee the plantation, that life, that dreadful life. And he gets out in the middle of a forest and he's betwixt. He's caught between returning, hoping to not be found returning or noticed returning. And then he's considering trying to figure out the north from the east, from the south to the west. And that piece is called Lost Within Freedom. A guy from Baltimore bought that piece with two other pieces. But within that same year, 2018, although I had began to develop the Cotton series, I had a conviction. And that conviction consisted of painting about something way more futuristic. I mean, it's one thing to paint about the past, but to paint about the future, it weighed heavy on me. And it was then that I was compelled to do the piece called, I mean, a lot of my art when I paint, even when I write, because I'm an author too, I see people. I see their roles. I see their skin tone. I see their body weight. I see the kind of lifestyle they will engage in. I even see their past. But in terms of this piece, I saw the people gathered. I saw their rebuttals. I saw the fear. I saw the anger. And I saw who would take to the forefront. And this particular piece is called Pro-Death, is what I called it. When I did Pro-Death, and I started on in late 2018. I didn't share it publicly until March of 2019 because at that time I was working on several pieces, and so I couldn't complete one piece at a time. By this time, I was doing like, I think that is a 23 by 36, and it was a few pieces that I was doing like on the same level. So I had graduated from the 16 by 20s, which is what Light Skin would be, which is also a cotton part of the Cotton series. Sold, Lost Within Freedom, Hard as Cotton. Those were all on 16 by 20 canvases. I had graduated from that by mid to late 2018. And that pro-death was like, and it's crazy because some of my internal convictions compel me to also share certain things on social media. And Facebook in itself establishes that when you post something on Facebook, it's going to give you an annual review. Like, remember when you posted this last year at this time on this date? Remember when you posted this 8 years ago on this date, this time? And so I got that reminder that I had posted that piece. And at that time, people were starting to entertain the idea of becoming entrepreneurs. People wanted to walk away from their employers. People felt like they were being overworked and underpaid. The American people felt that way. This is 2018. And then 2020 happens.
From grandchildren and grandparents keeping their distance from each other to medical guidelines that seem to constantly change.
We know you have questions about the COVID-19 vaccine and how to resume normal pre-pandemic activities. News 4 Jack's consumer investigator Lauren Verno got answers to some of the most commonly asked COVID questions.
This pandemic has been nothing short of isolating, especially for those most at risk. But with more people 65 and up getting vaccinated every day, we know many of you want to know,
if I got the full vaccine series, when can I go and see my grandchildren and hug and hang out with my grandchildren?
We turn to Duval County Medical Society Foundation Dr. Sunil Joshi.
So that's a good question. So right now, getting the vaccine series doesn't change anything in terms of the typical guidelines. So, we're still supposed to wear our masks. We're still supposed to be socially distancing and staying 6 feet away from people that you aren't typically exposed to. Why? Because though we feel like the vaccine is protecting us, we don't know for sure how well it's protecting us in terms of the duration of protection, how it's working on this new variant, all the different variants that are coming through. And so though you are in a much better spot because you have the vaccine, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can be hugging and touching other people who may be at risk.
People are now have to subject themselves to their home. There are restrictions. And because dealing with this particular piece, it wasn't just a conviction of painting it. It was more to learn about the loss of those liberties. Dealing with pro-death, it was more than a painting. And even when I shared it with a few people, U.S. citizens, they said it would never happen in my day and time. There were some who they rebuttal. It'll never happen. Not on American soil. This is the land of the brave, the free. Let freedom ring. And then you had those who were the selfish Americans who said, you know what? If that does happen, it's not going to happen in my lifetime. And so in essence, it was almost like them saying, my offspring will be left to deal with that, not me. And a lot of these people forced to live through this climate. Here it is, 2026. This particular piece is now 8 years of age. And when you look at immigration, we always had issues with immigration. People trying to get into the states. Culprits, they know who they are, have participated, aided and abetting those people to get to the United States. We always had issues with immigration. illegal immigrants. But this here was next level. It's almost like when I hear about stories of people who were either drowned out and died in New Orleans. A lot of them would tell you that some of the people that did die, they also felt that this is something that they could live through because they've been hit, they've been impacted before. But sometimes in life, it's next level.
As if we needed reminding, even after 10 years, how terrible Katrina really was, and what a colossal fiasco.
We are gonna die out here if they do not see somebody out here right now.
The horror show at the Superdome. Close to 25,000 people were trapped there for days. Thousands more baked on overpasses along the interstate.
This man jumped to his death because he just couldn't take it no more.
More than 1,800 people died across the Gulf Coast. How could this be happening in the United States of America? Who seemed more out of touch, President Bush or FEMA Director Mike Brown?
And Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job.
New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin let loose on a radio broadcast.
Now get off your asses and let's do something. And let's fix the biggest damn crisis in the history of this country.
Katrina was next level. I mean, we could talk and debate about the levees being bombed and, the exploding, whatever, and there being outside parties. Either way, that body of water was next level. And so when you think about immigration, what's going on? Next level. The ballot is in trouble. The American people have championed themselves on being able to go down and vote early without a hassle. And then you have some that say, you know what, it was a little hassle. There was some pushback, but I voted. American people have always prided themselves on the ballot. But even when you look at this piece, you see death to the ballot, death to immigration. And initially, when I first painted it, it was death to Black America. There's somebody holding a sign saying death to Black America. But then there was also a sign somebody holding saying death to Black youth. But I thought about it and I said, well, I can compare Black youth with Black America because they're all the same people. And the conviction was add death to the Second Amendment. And that's the only thing I amended. Other than that, everything else is original. And I did that within 2019 is when I revised that. That was the only sign in that particular piece that was changed. The death of more unity is what you see here, death to more unity, is that the American people now feel the need to unify on a moral basis. And to hear them tell it, they have a lot in common based on morale. But it's a bit too late for that. The American people, you all got to pay for that. You have to pay for willful ignorance. You will. It's begun. You got to pay for all the isms that you all have engaged in. Classism, racism, sexism. The people talk a lot about the American dream. A dream is just that. It's a dream. To close your eyes, to be in a sleep, and to imagine while asleep. A dream. But the government, you have the word govern and the word meant. Govern means to steer. To steer something, perhaps a ship, a boat, or a people, or a society. Steer it in the way that you want it to go. And then you cement it. Think about cement. Cement is cement. Almost irremovable. Think about pavement. Can you lift pavement? It's cemented. It's established. This government drives you in the direction it wants you to go, and it cements you, mints, government. So the government have lived up to its name. It's you who have lingered on.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, Lord, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Since the U.S. Supreme Court struck down President Donald Trump's tariffs, big corporations including FedEx, Costco, and L'Oreal have sued the government for refunds. And while the ruling is a win on paper for many, some small businesses are realizing that recouping a tariff refund won't be easy, if it happens at all.
The refund is important, but it's more important if it's done sooner because it allows us to stabilize pricing in the market.
Lee Siegel is founder and managing partner of VCR for Kids, which makes fixtures and learning products like toy boxes and cubbies. He says that while a tariff refund would help, the timing matters.
Like many companies that have imported, we have a tremendous amount of inventory that's burdened with these tariffs, and if there is in fact going to be a refund sooner rather than later, it allows us to adjust the cost basis and ultimately reduce the cost in the market.
Roughly 97% of U.S. importers are small businesses, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And of the $175 billion in tariffs paid to the U.S. government, small businesses paid about $55 billion, according to researchers at the University of Pennsylvania's Penn Wharton.
Over the past several months, we've been talking about the struggles that come with rising rent, and we're not just feeling the pain at home, it's a problem that small business owners are also facing. News Channel 5's Amelia Young live from Nashville for us this morning. And Amelia, this comes after some businesses were just fighting to stay afloat during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's correct, Ben. And now we're starting to learn that month by month, more businesses are struggling with these rising rent costs, having to look back to see now if they can even survive what they've already survived over the past 2 years. Now, a survey from Alignable shows 33% of all U.S. small businesses could not pay rent in May in full and on time. That's up from 28% in April. More than half of businesses report rents have been climbing over the last 6 months. And when it comes at a time when many are still recovering from the losses that came with the pandemic and ongoing inflation, retail experts say that it's going to make it harder for landlords to impose those rent increases as shoppers are also feeling squeezed. Experts say shoppers can only spend so much when the dollar goes not as far, and retailers can only pay so much in rent and have enough left to pay employees. So something has to be done.
Now, from surging import costs to a shortage of affordable loans, small businesses, though, are facing mounting pressure from America's affordability crisis. Yvonne Rodriguez reports on how many small businesses are hunkering down while trying to remain optimistic for the future.
Doug Sheffel's experience as a small business owner is similar to many others across the country this year.
In a small business world, everything is cash. It's everything you worry about. And I just see all the costs rising.
Sheffel is the co-owner of family-run ETM Manufacturing in Massachusetts. Back in April, he says he laid off about a quarter of his employees as the Trump administration's tariff rollout dented demand for the machine parts and sheet metal his company sells.
It just has become almost impossible to plan and be thoughtful about our workforce, be thoughtful about the how we pay those people, how we employ them.
So what you trying to say?
The hunt is on. And you're the prey.
What are the corrections that you're looking for specific?
Force, because that's the only thing that's gonna work.
But I mean, what are you looking for Black men to arrive at? A place of understanding of like, what do you want to see?
Well, we believe that there is no hope for them. That we don't believe in changing their minds. We don't. But I'm trying not to say what I really want to say because you're on stage, but if they could not exist, hey, we wouldn't be mad at.
I think for me, I think I want the coddling culture to kind of stop. I think they get validated a little bit too much and they're not held accountable as much as white men, Hispanic men, Asian men. Like, the legal system works in their benefit a little bit more than they think it does. They're seen as the ultimate, like, most oppressed. And I think that coddling culture needs to stop and they need to be held accountable for their actions.
Because we live in white male patriarchy, white men set what's socially acceptable. So with you all setting what's socially acceptable, the degenerate behavior.
No turning back, because these dusties are dusty. They just belong in a coffin.
I agree. Ladies, I'm so happy that we love in white men because they are the most sweetest, wonderful men. And you know what's so sad? Our mothers should have left the black men a long time ago.
I feel safe now that the dusties are in the gulags. When I look at the title, white men are better for black women.
The reason I support aborting a black child when it comes to it being male is because when I look at the black community and the problems in it, it's associated with males and male pathology. When you talk about violence, it's associated with the males. When you talk about the, women being forced upon, it's the males. When you talk about drugs, it's the males. When you talk about the fatherless children, it's the males. Every single problem that is happening in the black community, you point to the males and then you have the culprit. So for me, I think that not selectively breeding is very irresponsible when you are the only one who has control over who gets to earth. Your womb, it carries the person to earth. So if you're the only one with that power, regardless of whatever
After mass murder defendant Dylan Roof walked into this historic black church in Charleston, as seen in this surveillance video, he sat with detectives in Shelby, North Carolina, and explained why he committed a crime that left 9 people dead and shocked the nation.
I went to that church in Charleston, and I did it.
The 2-hour confession, recorded on video, has been introduced as evidence in the death penalty case. It's washed out, but it shows Roof laughing repeatedly as he spelled out what he did inside the church during a Bible study session.
What kind of gun did you use? A Glock 45. Okay.
He said he picked the church because there likely wouldn't be any whites inside, and the victims were more likely to be meek. He told investigators he thought about shooting drug dealers, but he said he worried they might shoot back. Roof's attorneys aren't disputing he carried out the attack, but are focused on persuading the jury to spare his life during the penalty phase of the trial. Ned Barker, Associated Press.
We're bringing you an update. So a black farmer or black farmers are turned away from the White House Farmers Meeting due to DEI. That's not the way it's supposed to work. But here it is.
But when I tried to attend the president's farm meeting that he had several weeks ago at the White House, there wasn't one black farmer at the table. As a matter of fact, there wasn't one black person in the room. And they told me I couldn't attend the White House meeting, something about they were moving away from DEI. I'm talking to you from my farm. There's no DEI on my farm. You know, my cattle eat the same amount of hay. My tractor burns the same amount of diesel fuel, and I have to be able to produce a crop here just like everybody else.
I'm sorry, what? There was a farm meeting at the White House. You tried to go. Were you there physically? Did they turn you away at the door? Or
Well, I heard, well, the farm community is a very small community. So people were telling me that there was going to be a farm meeting. And I reached out to the White House to attend, and that's the feedback that they got. In fact, they said they were moving away from the black farmer issue. They were moving away from DEI and the small farmer issue. And they were focusing on large-scale white farmers and corporate farmers because they produce the most food, is what this administration said.
They are moving away from the black farmer issue.
Yo, chat, I'm going to show you something. Bro, here, wait, look. Bro.
Tonight on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, more and more black Americans are starting to see the Democrat Party for what they really are.
And y'all love to play dumb like you don't know these things, so you can flip it around on her to communicate, because communication is key.
On God, she looks like Snaggy Hose. On my life.
That is crazy word.
On my life, on my life, on my life. Chat, yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Who is it? I don't even know what what is it?
I'm not sure. It doesn't matter.
You're not going to show me? He's not going to show me?
Bro, on my life. On my life.
That's crazy.
All right. Well,
Responding to a series of cyber attacks on telecommunication companies like AT&T and Verizon, U.S. law enforcement officials.
Shout out to the ancestors.
Niggas be so quick to say, I ain't finna chase no female. I ain't finna run behind no female. We don't want y'all running behind us because the scripture says to flee from sin. That means we trying to flee from y'all. We don't want y'all chasing us. We don't want a demon chasing us. We ain't trying to come into covenant with none of y'all. It's not just a physical soul tie through sex. It's spiritually, emotionally, the warfare that comes with a lot of you men.
But I mostly want Black women to understand this pattern. And that's why I keep emphasizing that there's a pattern going on here. And the pattern that you're seeing emerging is using different demographics of women to try and control your behavior. They're telling you they're not going to these women because they have a genuine interest in them. They're telling you that they're going to these women because there's something that they want from you that you won't
We
give.
got it going on, but women really aren't aware of their power because our power as women is silent.
Sorry, baby. You know there ain't no positive Black females in these movies.
Ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look?
A San Francisco firefighter spent his career putting his life on the line for the community. Now he finds himself fighting for survival and battling his own insurance company.
Now he is only sharing his story with one reporter, our senior investigator, Baguette Shaban.
Ken Jones and Helen Horvath have been married for close to 25 years. The two met as young firefighters in San Francisco, but now aren't sure how much time together they have left.
The life we used to have, we're not going to have anymore.
Jones, who has long been into cycling and fitness, was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer last year, which his doctor says is likely linked to his 17 years working as a firefighter. But part of his medical treatment, ordered by his oncologist, was recently denied by his insurance company.
You just automatically depend on that insurance being there, and then when it's not, it's quite a blow.
You didn't expect any of this?
No. Expect it to be taken care of, you know?
Blue Shield of California, which administers Jones's Medicare Advantage plan, declined our interview request. In a denial letter to Jones, Blue Shield acknowledged the immunotherapy prescribed by Jones's doctor is FDA approved, but only when it's used early as a first-line treatment. A Blue Shield oncologist and an independent reviewer paid by Medicare determined Jones is ineligible because he's already undergone other types of treatments for his cancer.
Sometimes, though, there's gray area in medicine.
Dr. Matthew Gubens is Ken's oncologist and heads the Thoracic Medical Oncology Clinic at UCSF. He believes Blue Shield is misinterpreting medical guidelines and says he should know, as someone who helped create them. Dr. Gubens is part of an elite panel with the National Comprehensive Cancer Network. Its guidelines for how to best treat cancer patients are widely used by hospitals, doctors, and insurance companies.
There are gray areas and edge cases among our patients where those guidelines just don't apply, where the data aren't as robust, and we have to make clinical decisions in the clinic on the ground.
Dr. Gubin says his request for immunotherapy should be considered a continuation of Jones's initial treatment, since it was never completed. Jones started on chemo and immunotherapy, but his doctors urged him to stop early in order to try new medical trials. But when those didn't slow down the cancer as much as everyone had hoped, Jones's medical team decided to turn back to chemo, combined with immunotherapy. Then came that rejection from Blue Shield. So Dr. Gubens called the number listed on the denial letter to lodge an appeal.
Did you ever reach anyone?
I reached people who apologized, but they weren't the right place to send the appeal to, and often referred me back to the first person I talked to.
How long were you on the phone?
That day, I spent about 3 hours calling different phone numbers for this insurance company.
So he submitted his appeal in writing, but it was denied.
Who says no to somebody with stage 4 lung cancer?
Rachel Jones is Ken's daughter, and she's also a nurse.
You thought it was a mistake?
Yeah, I really did. To me, saying no is saying, I'm okay with you dying.
She recently took her disbelief to government officials.
Today, I'm forced to stand here and beg.
As her father sat masked in the back row, lines of people urged San Francisco's Health Oversight Board to intervene, since it contracted with Blue Shield to provide insurance coverage for nearly 30,000 city employees and retirees like Ken Jones.
They're hastening his death.
San Francisco's former fire chief, Janine Nicholson, spoke out too. When she was diagnosed with cancer more than a decade ago, it was Ken Jones who drove her to her medical appointments for 6 months.
He's the kind of safety net that a lot of different kinds of people can talk to.
A story that might not be on your radar is the Trump administration taking new steps to overhaul the education department and ultimately close its doors altogether. Check out this video that the education secretary posted.
My administration will take all lawful steps to shut down the department. We're going to shut it down and shut it down as quickly as possible.
The department is entering into agreements with 4 federal agencies to take a bigger role in administering key initiatives. That includes oversight of billions of dollars in federal grants for public schools and colleges, and oversight of programs that help Native American students, just to name a few. Now, the announcements are described as partnerships, and the department says they will still have, quote, proper oversight over those responsibilities. The agreements are likely designed to prevent legal challenges that could still come based on how these changes are actually implemented. I asked the education secretary whether she's worried about potential lawsuits. Are you worried about potential legal challenges to the interagency agreements?
No.
No?
Back, there are some major changes coming to Atlanta Public Schools. District leaders released its recommendations for which schools will close or be repurposed.
Organizers of this year's May Day are hoping even more people show up to march through the streets of downtown. Some of the people marching will be Chicago teachers and students. The teachers union wanted CPS to cancel classes, and so teachers and students could attend events that center around the theme Workers Over Billionaires. In the end, the teachers union and CPS came to a compromise. Schools will be in session, but students and teachers have the option to participate. Buses will be provided.
Well, the latest right now, we just got the word 20 seconds ago. They did vote in favor of approving that $3 billion facilities master plan. That just happened just moments ago, 6-3, that passes. You can see I am inside the school administration building right now. This is the overflow room. You can see a lot of the folks are down here because it was so jammed inside upstairs. Jason, if you show the board over there, like you said, there were 2 different recesses, and now it's virtual, and this is what people have been watching for a little while. So let me just set the scene for you real quickly. This meeting started at 4 o'clock. At 4:10, it went to recess because of a lot of chaos, screaming, shouting inside of the meeting. Councilman Isaiah Thomas was going at the board, angry and upset. Here's a little bit of that interaction right now.
After you vote for this, we call it for your resignation. Vote for it. Vote for it. Vote for it. Let's go. Huh? We can't hear you. That's the meeting and
So right there, that's some of the interaction that caused the first recess. Everybody had to leave. The school board left. I can tell you about a half hour later, they came back in around 4:45. Of course, this is all over that master plan. 17 schools will now close or be slated to close. A bunch of others merged, invested in. So, of course, a lot of real raw emotions you can see over there. Some of the students who found out that their school now will be slated to close are upset. You can see the hugs, you can see the tears over there as well. It's hard to describe kind of what happened here within the 2 hours or so, but if we swing the camera over here, you can see a bunch of officers. Check out a bunch of officers and bike cops came in here a little while ago, just in case, standing by, just in case anything happened. Can I ask you a quick question? Are you in tears?
Yeah.
What's going through your mind right now?
Just, I've been at my school for 15 years. So to lose what has been a home after being laid off twice from this district just breaks my heart.
And I see students over here in tears and crying. Yeah. What's going through your mind when you see the students in pain?
It's not fair. It's never been fair to them to be displaced and told that their school isn't enough, to told that they don't deserve to have a fix. To be in that space is just wrong. It's so wrong.
The things that we have to remember is that there are attacks on entrepreneurship. There are attacks on education. There are attacks on employment. And all of those attacks are coordinated. There is a coordinated strategy that's being designed to dismantle the pathways to economic mobility and self-determination for Black communities. These efforts are deeply interconnected. So if you lose your job, and you know the federal employees are now being laid off, if you lose your job, it makes it that much more difficult for you to get to that place of economic mobility. When we dismantle our education system, and we know that it's fractured as is, but when we dismantle our education system, guess who's going to suffer the most? Black and brown people.
Show me what a police state looks like. This is what a police state looks like. Show me what a police state looks like. This is what a police state looks like. Show me what a police state looks like. This is what a police state looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. The peace bomb. Without that gun, you're nothing.
New national poll from the Institute of Politics at Harvard Kennedy School is taking a look at how young Americans ages 18 to 29 see the state of our nation now. Findings reveal economic pressure is the defining crisis for the young generation as they increasingly lose faith in the political system. For more, let's bring in the director of polling at the Institute of Politics at Harvard University, MS Now contributor John Della Volpe. So, John, tell us what you found.
Thanks for having us back, Mika. This is the 52nd survey that we've conducted, and I don't think we've seen a survey where younger people are so concerned about the future of our country. 59% of young Americans say we're on the wrong track. We've never seen a number higher than that. Only 15% have faith or trust in the federal government to do the right thing, not even to deliver, but just to do the right thing. We see only a third have faith that the elections and the midterm elections will be carried on fairly as well. So we see a generation who is not apathetic. They care deeply about these issues. We talk about the economic crisis so many young people are facing, but the concern is that there is a lack of confidence in agency, that the system can actually make the changes that are required for people, not just to even live a good life, but even just to survive economically day to day.
The Department of Homeland Security, and ICE specifically, are aggressively expanding the surveillance state. America's most well-funded law enforcement agency of all time is using next-generation technology like location tracking, facial recognition, and artificial intelligence to create a database, not just of immigrants, but to monitor activists and really anyone they may deem to be an agitator.
It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist.
So is there, in fact, a database? This administration has explicitly said they're basically creating one. Tom Homan went on Fox News this month and said so. Although Homeland Security has denied there is a database for, quote, domestic terrorists out there. But what is undeniable right now is that Trump's massive funding increase created unprecedented surveillance capabilities for ICE. And here's just a piece of how all this works. So let's say you hear about ICE activity in your area and you want to go out and protest, which, by the way, is your constitutional right. If you drive there, automatic license plate readers can photograph your car and run it through a database of more than 20 billion scans. In seconds, they know where you live, where you work, everywhere your car has been in the last 30 days. Like it appears they did with observer and U.S. citizen Judith Levy in Minnesota. Agents took photos of her license plates. Then, according to NPR News, a masked agent later walked up to her passenger window and said, "Hello, Judith. How are you today?" ICE, the same agency that allows its agents to wear masks, has access to new apps like Mobile Fortify, which allow agents to immediately take your biometric scan of your face. They can even scan your fingerprints with just a picture. They don't need to even physically touch you. And then let's say you want to upload your protest video to social media while you're out there. ICE has plans to hire nearly 30 contractors for round-the-clock, 24/7 social media monitoring. Of course, it's not like there's any shortage of content, posters, mugshots, and videos made by ICE and DHS going out there on social media. And then there's companies like Meta, which just began halting Facebook, Instagram, and Threads users from sharing a database that claimed to attempt to contain thousands of names and photos of ICE agents, saying it violates their privacy rules.
We was gonna do all these amazing things, and when I came back through Fort Lewis, there was protesters everywhere. I had a protester spit on me. I couldn't understand them protesting against me and those of us that served. So that anger ate my life up as a young person.
We come back and we're quickly forgotten about. And many of us are, just like me, are out here on the streets, and they don't even want to tell you that they've been in the military because they're ashamed. And they're ashamed of what they've been told to do and ordered to do, and they did it to protect and serve our homeland, and it was all done through lies and propaganda. And that's not right. I'm no longer a respected war veteran. I'm just another junkie on the street that nobody gives a damn about. And
Yeah. Red Rocks. First day of school. Pictures, of course. Obligatory. Camping. Oh, yeah. Halloween. Loved snowboarding, so we went snowboarding quite a bit. This was him the day before he graduated boot camp, and I think this was the day he shipped off to Fort Benning. Yeah. And this was on his Southeast Asia trip, I think. He was the guy that would do anything for anybody and wanted to make everybody laugh all the time. Even in situations like this picture behind me. His buddies told me that he was still just trying to make people laugh as they were doing their job in Afghanistan. So what I want to have happen is, to start off, I support the U.S. military. I truly do, especially those that volunteer to do these type of things, because there is no greater sacrifice. So I don't hold a grudge. I'm not looking to, I don't have an axe to grind. But what I do want is, he wrote in his letter that he didn't want to be a statistic. Sorry. So I don't want him to be a statistic. I want his death to mean something. Depending on the time, there's between, for a long time it was 22 active duty soldiers or veterans that commit suicide every day of the year, on average. That number during the pandemic has gone up to about 30. So I think something really needs to be done, because it's just not right for these people to risk their lives and then come back and not get all the support they need. So in talking to my son before he died, there were a number of things he said that really kind of clued me in onto what some of the issues are. The first one is, if you come back and you say, and you admit you have PTSD, or any kind of mental issues, mental struggles, you are immediately deemed unfit to fight. So that means you cannot carry a weapon around, you cannot have a weapon, you can't be deployed. So that's a huge problem for people that join the service to fight. It's a stigma, and everybody knows, because all of a sudden you're not carrying your sidearm, which is a normal everyday thing, and it's a huge barrier to people getting any kind of mental health help. The second thing that's really important to me is how they treat post-traumatic stress. You know, right now it's called PTSD, D being disorder. And the way I look at it, after seeing some of the videos that my son showed me, humans were not meant to see or experience these things. I saw it on a phone of one of their translators, their Afghan translators, who had stepped on an IED, and they were trying to save his life, and it was graphic, and my son was there and saw all this happen. And there's just no way a human was built to just experience these things, seeing people die, bad guys, good guys, whoever, and just have it, you know, slide off their back like nothing happened. So it's not a disorder. Post-traumatic stress is something that I think is incredibly natural for somebody to have happen when they experience something extremely traumatic, like watching somebody die. My son did not want to be a statistic. My son did not want to be a statistic. And my way of honoring him is to not allow that. My goal is to change the way the military treats their most valuable assets, the people that volunteer to risk their lives for our freedom.
Your strength and your commitment told us that this is still America. And this reactionary nightmare and these invasions of American cities will not stand.
I'm here because I'm worried about my children and my grandchildren. I'm tired. We're exhausted. This brings me hope. I have so much hope here. And we can change this. Our government is not going to do it. It has to be we the people.
Across Chicago and around the country plan to protest President Donald Trump's policies. This will be the third round of No Kings protests. Several rallies are planned across the area and, as we mentioned, around the country, including one this afternoon in Grant Park. One of the biggest gatherings could be in Minnesota.
7 things the middle class will not be able to afford in the next 5 years, and I think it's a lot sooner than that. Number 1, housing. Unless you inherited property, struck gold, or plan to live with family,
it's going to be impossible.
Yeah.
Cars, new ones, not realistic.
Vacations. Travel savings is quietly becoming survival money.
Healthcare, insured or not, you're paying premiums, co-pays, deductibles. And that's going to eat up a lot of your money.
And medications. 5, child care. $2,000 per child per month. It's not child care, it's a second mortgage.
Yes, it is. And it's slowly been getting so much more expensive for people
everywhere.
Retirement. Most people aren't planning retirement. They're planning how to get through next week and the week after that, and so forth. It's just impossible.
Savings, just not happening. So tell us, how are you getting through each day? We would like to know.
Let us know.
We hope this helped in some way.
We are here today for No Kings 2.0. Things have gotten worse in our country. We are taking to the streets. This is not a Hate America rally. This is a Love America rally.
If there's any hate, it's coming from the White House itself. And it's coming from Donald Trump and his administration, and he's trying to make people think that it's a Hate America protest, and it's far from it.
The lies that come out of Washington are increasing. The total disregard for the Constitution is incredible now, and it's increasing every day, and that should concern everybody.
I came out today because America is a free nation. We welcome immigrants. We don't like people being snatched off our streets, and we don't want to be a fascist country.
No King's Day is an awesome rally for people from all walks of life, for people that are different, to come together and stand for one common cause: America, democracy, peace, and justice. That's why we're here. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
It's a piece that's troubling. For some, disturbing, very disturbing. And to be honest with you, when I was in Atlanta, a lot of art galleries, they pushed back. These galleries are into what is vibrant, what is fashionable, smiley faces.